So, you're thinking about visiting the country of Chad. Or maybe you've never heard of it before and you want to know more about Chad. Well, you're in luck because today we are continuing that exploration of countries around the world, and we're going to be walking through some of the etiquette, the cultural history, info about the location, but ultimately the 5 things that you need to add to your next itinerary. So let's go ahead and dive in. Well, this country is located in North Central Africa. It's bordered by the countries of Libya, Sudan, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Niger. That is a lot of countries, which makes you think it's fairly small. But actually, it is twice the size of the state of Texas. And with such a vast amount of land, the temperature really can vary. So we have everything from arid Sahara deserts in the north to tropical regions in the south. Quite a range of things, making the best time to visit usually during cooler or drier seasons, usually between November to February. So if you're looking for a little getaway during what I guess in the United States would be our winter, that might be a time. So their dry season temperatures range from 54 degrees Fahrenheit to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And during the wet season, it's between 62 degrees Fahrenheit to 105. Humid, warm, that would be my explanation of their summers. And if you're gonna be there, some things to keep an eye out for in terms of purchases or some like little trinkets you might want to take home. Well, visitors can find unique items that are like beautifully woven mats, pottery, traditional clothing that just showcases the craftsmanship of these Chaldean artisans. So those are some things you just might want to save some extra room in that suitcase for, if you know what I'm saying. And now let's dive into kind of more of the religious background of this country. So if you break it down, 52.1% of the current population are Muslims, 23.9% are Protestants, Roman Catholics make up about 20% of the population. Then we have 0.3 animists, 0.2 are other Christians, no religious affiliation is 2.8, and then unspecified 0.7. So Christians in Chad, compromising mainly Protestant and Catholics, are generally able to practice their faith freely. However, in some regions, particularly where Islamic influence is stronger, they might face societal pressure and occasional discrimination. So the government officially recognizes religious groups and provides legal protections for religious freedom, yet there have been reports of local authorities favoring Islam. So as a Christian going into this country, that is definitely something to be keeping in mind, because we want to practice our faith, but we want to do so in a way that is safe. So keep that in mind. Now, if you were to try to date this back to how this religious climate came about, we could look to around the 11th century when Islam was introduced to the region through trans-Saharan trade routes. Christianity actually arrived much later, primarily through European colonialism in the late 19th century and early 20th centuries. This historical layering has resulted in complex and sometimes tense coexistence between the religious groups. If you're given the opportunity to interact with someone in Islam and you're wanting to know how to witness, how to speak with them, I actually want to reference this previous episode, which goes into a lot more detail about where their beliefs stem from, how that is different than Christianity, and then how we can actually address that from a Christian perspective. So with that in mind, let's get back to the lovely country of Chad. Specifically, let's take a look at some of the cultural greetings and etiquette that we can put into practice. Now, when it comes to cultural etiquette, there's a few things to keep in mind. The first thing is their general respect for elders. When greeting a group, it's important to use titles and address the elder in the room first. Also, it's important to dress modestly and conservatively, not showing too much skin, especially in rural areas. Dining etiquette: if you are offered food, it is respectful to eat and accept that food as a gracious sign to your host. Also, limit public displays of affection, as that's generally frowned upon, and use your left hand whenever receiving a gift, because the right hand is used to wipe her behind, and we don't want that in our general. It's just a disrespectful hand, I guess, as a result. It's the filthy hand. Use your left hand to receive gifts and to give things to others. Also, punctuality. Unlike much of the Western world, flexibility is actually very common. So being late is considered acceptable, and so kind of expect that of others as well. Now it's time to get into the 5 things I recommend doing in the country. But before that, I want to point out something from a Christian perspective that I think might be beneficial to add to your itinerary. My recommendation is to visit Njamena Cathedral. This Roman Catholic cathedral is in the capital city and is a significant site for Christian worship and community events. It serves as a hub for the Catholic community and is considered an architectural landmark. So it's a way to kind of experience some of the local worship and get to immerse yourself in Chaldean Christianity. As a Christian traveler, have you ever felt isolated because of your beliefs? Fearful that there will be pressure on you to compromise on your faith? Hesitant to travel with others because you're not sure what they'll want to do with their free time? Uncertain what options you'll have for finding Christians and connecting while on vacation? Then you've come to the right place. If you want to feel confident that you will have Christian connections when you travel, experience peace, that your love for the Lord will be respected, and boldly step into your God-given purpose and passion for travel with other like-minded believers on vacation, well then mark your calendars for September 16th. We're hosting our first ever Christian Travelers Connection Conference, an online event to help believers make connections with other believers wherever they're traveling. Go to christiantravelers.net/connect to learn more. Now, in terms of the 5 must things to do in the country, my first recommendation is Zakouma National Park. Zakouma is a stunning wildlife reserve in southeastern Chad, known for its immersive biodiversity and successful conservation efforts. You can witness a wildlife that includes elephants, giraffes, lions, and over 400 bird species. The park offers a rare glimpse into one of Africa's most intact ecosystems, which is kind of crazy because poaching and just all kinds of stuff has happened in the continent of Africa. So Chad's managed to stay and continue to preserve its wildlife. Now, from a spiritual perspective, I encourage you to reflect on the wonders of God's creation and the importance of stewardship. Genesis 1:24 says, "And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to their kind. And it was so." God created them not just for an entertainment for mankind, but also for a purpose. And so it is part of our role is to care for the creatures and to just sometimes admire them, admire the tiny details and the intricacies of God's creation. Now, while you're there, here are my 3 itinerary tips. First, take a guided safari tour to see the diverse wildlife and learn about the conservation efforts. Visit during the dry season for the best wildlife viewing opportunities, and then stay in some of those eco-friendly lodges within the park for a more immersive experience. I don't know about you, but I've seen that there are places where you can actually like wake up and there's elephants right outside your tent. That sounds pretty cool to me. I was gonna say a little sketch because I was thinking about hyenas, but let's focus on if it's a lodge and things, there are people there that'll keep you safe. So make wise decisions, but also enjoy God's creation. Next up is Lake Chad. Lake Chad is one of the largest lakes in all of Africa, and it's a crucial source of water for the region. You can explore its unique landscapes, meet local fishermen and some of the communities, and just get to reflect on how important this water source is for them in this area. So as you're reflecting on this, I also encourage you to reflect on the importance of baptism and the renewal that we had spiritually through our baptism. My 3 itinerary pointers while you're there is to take a boat trip to explore the lake and observe some of the local fishermen practices. Visit nearby villages to learn about cultural and economic importance of the lake, and reflect on and discuss some of its unique beauty that it has to offer. Have you ever seen toadstool rocks? I know it sounds weird, but I just went to Utah a few weeks ago, and there was this whole park dedicated to these large rocks that were on top of sandstone. The sand had been kind of washed away, and so it was a thin pillar with a large rock on top of it. That is what this next one reminds me of, and that is a Neti Plateau. The Neti Plateau is a breathtaking sandstone massif in northeastern Chad, known for its stunning rock formations, ancient caves, paintings, ancient cave paintings, and natural arches. You can experience the dramatic landscapes, explore prehistoric art, and witness the beauty of the Sahara Desert. While you're there, I encourage you to contemplate the timelessness of the landscape and reflect on Psalm 90 verse 2. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. I know there are people out there that believe evolution theory, and they believe all these things, and we know about the flood, we know about God, we know about the details of his creation. But sometimes just understanding that a rock was created and that the Lord knew so much of its history, what it's been through, and how it can make us feel small, but yet God cares about us so individually. And so sometimes just being somewhere unique like this can help us reflect on the intricacies that God puts within us. Now, my 3 itinerary pointers for this destination: hire a local guide to explore the rock formations and caves with ancient petroglyphs on them. Camp under the stars in the desert, experiencing the silence and the vastness of the Sahara. That would be totally wild. I know Jesus spent a lot of time in the wilderness, but like wilderness, all right. And then visit Guelta de Archi, a natural water hole where you can see crocodiles and camels. That's a combo. Here in the States, definitely don't have both of those at the same watering hole, so that would be a little different. Now it's time for you to visit the capital city, N'Djamena. I'm sorry, I know I'm butchering it, but this is the capital, and it's the largest city in Chad, offering a mix of modern and traditional experiences with bustling markets, museums, and cultural sites. As you engage with the local Christian community here and experience the diversity of worship, I encourage you to reflect on Hebrews 10:24 through 25. And let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. As we travel, I always encourage you to spend some time looking for worship services and getting to know some of the local community. And so this is one of those opportunities where you can begin to worship with others and get to know them more personally. Some itinerary pointers here. Visit the National Museum of Chad to learn about the country's history. Explore its vibrant central market and attend a church service to connect with the local believers there. Up next is the Tibesti Mountains. Tibesti Mountains in northern Chad are an awe-inspiring range featuring the country's highest peak, Emi Kosi, and the volcanic landscapes. You can trek through the dramatic volcanic landscapes, explore remote oases, and encounter the traditional Tubu nomadic culture. So as you're doing so, reflect on the grandeur and power of God's creation and the rugged beauty of the mountains. I don't know about you, but volcanoes are a little intimidating, so travel there wisely. In fact, my pointers include go on a guided trek with someone to the highest peak in the Sahara. Make sure you have some support and direction there. Visit the remote oasis and interact with the people to learn about their way of life. So as I reflect on this itinerary, Chad is kind of a unique place. It's a desert. It has unique animals. It's kind of a wilderness escapade. But God sent Jesus, and Jesus demonstrated the power of going in the wilderness, how it was a place for him to reconnect with the Lord without the distractions, and to maybe just admire some of the things that the wilderness offers. How animals can survive in a desert, how they can thrive. It's a lot more challenging of an environment, and to celebrate that God still cares for the birds and for the animals and for you, that is a great place to do so. So my encouragement, if you go to Chad, be thinking about that as you adventure. And now we're getting to this next section where I want to offer up some travelogues, some opportunity to hear stories from other Christians who visited these countries and have had the opportunity to connect with the Lord there. If that's you, then this is my call for you to send us some recordings of you talking about those experiences, or write us a short paragraph explaining them, and we'll probably feature it in some of our upcoming episodes. In fact, if alphabetically you've been from anywhere from Colombia to Ecuador, this is your opportunity to email us at hello@christiantravelers.net, and your story might just be featured in one of our next episodes. So I'd like to also point you to this episode if you enjoyed learning a little bit about Chad and are looking for maybe something a little more winter-based, maybe a little cooler than Chad. This would be an episode to check out. And as always, we're going to go ahead and pray this episode out, so please join me. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the unique creation that you've made in Chad, for each of the individuals that live there in the desert. Lord, be with them during the dry season and the rainy season. Be with them in all things. And as some people choose to travel to Chad, may they be safe and grow closer to you in the process. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, Christian traveler, until next time, safe travels and God bless.